All right, hey everybody, welcome back to another video. And today we'll be talking about my favorite cruise that I've been on so far, and that's coming up right after this. Hey everybody, welcome back to Traveling with Justin. I am Justin. All right, so yes, as I said in the intro, that we're gonna be talking about my favorite cruise. But first, let's get a breakdown of the cruises that I have been on. All right, so I have a cheat sheet, okay? So I might be looking off camera, so don't worry, I'm still engaged with you. All right, so the cruises that I have been on, 2010. All right, I went on the Mariner of the Seas out of LA on the Mexican Riviera. 2013, Carnival Inspiration, Baja, Mexico. 2015, Crown Princess, that was an Alaskan cruise. 2017, the Carnival Inspiration, Baja, Mexico. 2018, Ruby Princess, the Alaskan cruise. 2019, Carnival Splendor, Mexican Riviera. 2020, the Regal Princess, the Eastern Caribbean. 2022, Enchanted Princess, the New England Coast cruise. 2023, Brilliance of the Seas, the Pacific Coastal cruise. And 2023, Ruby Princess, the Panama Canal. And 2024, Quantum of the Seas, Alaska cruise. Now, those are the ones that I have been on. Yeah, so if you were keeping track, let's go ahead. Let's break that down a little bit. If you were keeping track, that means that Royal Caribbean has three. Carnival has 3. Princess has 5. So that's a grand total of 11 cruises. Okay? So, yeah, Princess right now has been my favorite cruise line so far. My wife, I asked her to do hers, but she's like, no. I'm not going to do that. Her favorite is Royal Caribbean, or Caribbean, however you want to pronounce it. Don't get mad at me, okay? All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to break down the cruises from number 11 down to the top cruise of my most favorite cruise of all time so far, okay? So let's break it down. Drum roll, whatever. Okay, so coming in at number 11 was a Baja Mexican cruise. Okay, now this cruise left from not from San Pedro, but from Long Beach, California. It was aboard the Carnival Inspiration, and it's just number 11 because I've done it twice so far. And so what happened was that it was a 4-night, 5-day cruise, and I went from Long Beach over to Catalina, then a sea day, then Ensenada, and then back, okay? We maybe had 2 sea days in there. And back, okay? It was an okay cruise, all right? I enjoyed it. It was fun. Carnival Inspiration was an older ship. So, yeah, it was nice. I enjoyed that, but it's number 11 for me right now. So number 10, okay, was the Brilliance of the Seas, okay? The Pacific California Coastal Cruise. It went from San Pedro, California, up to Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And it had, so the stops we had was 2 days in San Francisco, 1 day in Victoria, and then it ended in Vancouver. There was a couple sea days in between that. And it was a good cruise. The Brilliance of the Seas, I have some issues with the Brilliance of the Seas. I have issues with Royal Caribbean. But the Brilliance of the Seas especially, that's why it's down there towards the bottom. It was a nice cruise, but I just had some issues with the Brilliance of the Seas and some of the things they did. Okay, so number 9 was an Alaska cruise. Okay, in 2015, aboard the Crown Princess. Okay, I actually really loved the Crown Princess. That was a great Alaska trip. That was my first trip to Alaska. So I'm just gonna look at my notes here really quick. All right, so we started off in Seattle, Washington, and we went to Juneau, Sagway, and we cruised the Tracy Arm Fjord up there in Alaska. We went to Ketchikan, Victoria, British Columbia, Canada, and then back to Seattle. Now, I really like that. I mean, that was a fun cruise. The Crown Princess was really super nice. They had a lot of entertainment. They had plenty of things to do and to eat. I really like that cruise. It's hard to rank these. It's really hard to rank the cruises. But yeah, that was on the Crown Princess. All right, so number 8, the Alaska cruise on the Quantum of the Seas. Now, we just took that in 2024 in September of 2024. And so that was a 7-night, okay? That went from Seattle, Washington. It went to Sitka. Then we went over to Sagway. And we went to Juneau. And we went to Victoria, British Columbia. And then back to Seattle. Now, the Quantum of the Seas is a really super nice ship. It's a nice big ship. It has the North Star on it. But that North Star did not work when I was on it. It hadn't worked for months. And that was kind of a bummer because I was looking forward to riding that. It was a good cruise. It's hard to put these in, the favorite cruises and stuff like that. I really enjoyed the Quantum of the Seas. It was a lot better than the Brilliance of the Seas. So there's that. But that comes in at number 8. Okay, so number 7 is another Royal Caribbean ship. The Mariner of the Seas going to the Mexican Riviera. Okay, and that was taken in 2010. It was our first cruise. It was May of 2010. And it went from San Pedro, Los Angeles. It went down to Cabo, San Lucas, Mexico, Mazatlan, Mexico, and Puerto Vallarta, I can never say that, Mexico. Okay, it was a 7-night. 7 days, sorry. 7-day, yeah. And, for having my first cruise, I really, really enjoyed that. It was, I thought it'd be boring on a cruise because I've heard people say, there's nothing to do on a cruise. There's just nothing to do. There's a lot of things to do, okay? Ice skating on this ship. There was golf. There was food and things like that. So I really enjoyed the Mariner of the Seas. However, number 7, it's down there on the list. And, I do apologize. But, yeah, number 1, the first cruise. Our number 1 cruise that we've ever been on. And it's on 7th of my favorite list. All right, so number 6 is the Mexican Riviera again in 2019 on Splendor. Okay, the Carnival Splendor. All right, so it was just my wife, me, and my son, my oldest son. On that, my other son was in Argentina. And so that one consisted of, 2019. It went to Cabo, San Lucas, Mexico, Mazatlan, Mexico, and Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. Now, I have it above Mariner there a little bit, just because of the ship, and we're seasoned cruisers by this point. But Carnival, it was a funner adventure, I guess, just because we knew what we could do and what we shouldn't be doing, and what to, and it was a different ship. Mariner of the Seas was a great ship. It was a fairly large ship. Not the largest that it was not the largest that Royal Caribbean had out at the time, but it was a good ship. It was a toss up between those two, but I just picked the Splendor over the Mariner of the Seas. I liked the Splendor. It was really fun. We had a balcony, and it was quite fun. That ship was nice. We're getting to number 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, I can count. All right, so number 5 has to be the Eastern Caribbean in 2020 aboard the Regal Princess. Now, we took this cruise in February of 2020, right before the world was shut down. Yes, it was interesting. All right, so I loved the Caribbean. It was really super nice. The Regal Princess was the biggest ship that I've been on the Princess side of things. And it had a lot of different amenities. It had Alfredo's, the pizza place now a casual dining. We went cruising with two of my friends and their spouses, and it was fun. The excursions were fun. We had a fun time. All right, so that's why that's at number 5, is just because I really like that agenda or the itinerary. So yeah, let me jump into the itinerary. It was a 7-day Eastern Caribbean cruise from Fort Lauderdale. It went to Princess Keys, however you want to say it. It's their private island. So we went to Charlotte, Annabelle, St. Thomas, and then we went to St. Martin. And then we had a couple of sea days. So it was an interesting trip, okay? I really liked the Regal. I really liked the Eastern Caribbean. I mean, I loved going to St. Martin and seeing the airport beach. And I loved going over to St. John's from St. Thomas. We went over to St. John's and went to Trunk Bay. Now that was really super nice. But, that was number 5, okay? So number 4 was Baja, Mexico, aboard the Carnival Inspiration, okay? You can give or pick which one, all right? So it was a good trip. It was actually the 2013 one that we went on with my sons. It was their first cruise, and we actually got upgraded to a balcony. There was only like 16, maybe like 20 balconies on the whole entire ship. And they called me up. I was like, hey, you want to be upgraded to a balcony? I was like, how much? And they're like, $500. I was like, a person? No, like $500. I was like, done. And I'm glad we did, because those cabins that we had was very small. And this one was a suite. It was like a little tiny mini suite. It was large. It was nice. And they didn't know that we were getting a balcony until we got there. And Catalina was fun. Ensenada was okay. It was over Thanksgiving week. And so it was a fun trip. Number 3 is the New England cruise on the Enchanted Princess in 2022. Now, this was our first cruise back after the world was shut down due to that thing, okay? And my parent in-laws, they went with us on this New England cruise. We flew to New York, and we went out of New York City, and we were supposed to go to Newport, Rhode Island. We never made it there because of weather. We couldn't go into the dock. We went to Boston, Massachusetts. We were supposed to go to Bar Harbor, Maine, but we couldn't get in there because of weather. And we went to St. John's, New Brunswick, Canada. And then we were supposed to head on over to Halifax, Nova Scotia. However, we had to stop and turn around and go down because there was a hurricane that hit Florida and was going up the coast, and it turned into a tropical storm, and it was going up. It actually hit Halifax. And so, that's why we turned around, and we didn't go to Halifax. So I never made it to Bar Harbor. I never made it to Newport, Rhode Island, and Halifax. So I'll have to go back and go to those again. But Bar Harbor is, it's restricting cruise ships. Okay? So, yeah. But it was a fun ship. The Enchanted was brand new. I mean, it wasn't the first selling on it. It was brand new. I mean, it was built in like 2020 and started selling back in like 2021, 2022. And so we hit it. It was actually the largest ship at the time for Princess. And so I've hit Regal and Enchanted Princess. I really like that. Enchanted had Gigi's on it instead of Alfredo's, but it was a fun ship, a fun cruise to go on. All right. So number 2. All right. So it was the Alaska cruise aboard the Ruby Princess. Okay. And that took place in 2018. Okay. It was a 7-day cruise out of Seattle. And we went to Juneau, Sagway. We went cruising down Glacier Bay. And we hit Ketchikan and Victoria. Then ended up back in Seattle. All right. So this one is number 2 is because the Ruby Princess, we actually splurged a little bit on this trip, which I'm happy we did. We got a suite in the back of the ship on deck 8, I do believe. Yeah. And it was the last suite they had available. And it had an extra large balcony. It was really super fun, but we call it the cruise from hell. Because my son, he graduated high school the day before. He was out partying. Not partying, but he was out celebrating his graduation. And he was goofing off. And he hit his foot wrong. And he broke his foot. Yeah. And so we had to go to the doctors. My wife took my son to the doctors. And they said, oh yeah, it's definitely broken. I could do surgery tomorrow. But we're like, no, we can't because we are headed out on a cruise. And the doctor's like, oh, here's a boot. You can't do anything. So they scheduled the broken foot back a week or so after we got back. And he said, here's a boot, here's some crutches, and you need to get a scooter. And so we went and to rent a scooter, and we couldn't rent a scooter because they had, like 2 weeks out. And it's like, how much would it be just to buy one? And like, 200 or something bucks. So we bought one right there and boom, we took it. But yeah, it was a cruise from hell because my son broke his foot. But it was really super cool being there in Alaska in a mini suite, and just going down Glacier Bay. I mean, that was fun. And I really enjoyed that one. Okay, so now we're down to number 1. I bet you can't guess what my number 1 favorite cruise of all time has been. Any guesses? I'll stop for a sec. All right, so the number 1 cruise, that I have loved going on, my favorite cruise, has to be the 2023 Ruby Princess Panama Canal trip. All right, so this one, it was a 15-night cruise. We left from San Francisco, California, and we went to Cabo San Lucas, Mexico. We took my parent-in-laws on this one as well, and they've never been to Cabo, so we went to Cabo. That's the 3rd time I've been in Cabo. It was okay, We did a private yacht selling excursion. That was fun. Then we were supposed to go to Honduras, but that got canceled because of civil unrest in the country. So we skipped that. We went to Costa Rica, Parantitas. I cannot say these words. Okay, that was really fun. We went out and we actually saw some sloths, and that was fun. That's what my wife really wanted to see. So yeah, it was a fun time. Costa Rica was nice. All right, and then we were supposed to go to Panama City, Panama. I mean, we had a great excursion set up where we would go and tour the locks of the Panama Canal. But we could not because of civil unrest and riots there in Panama City due to government and going against what the people wanted. Like, the government would never do that. So we had to sit outside of the Panama Canal, just docked with like 50 other ships, not cruise ships, but like container ships and things like that. We just had to sit out there. They actually put gas in it, and I watched them fuel it up, and it was just like another sea day, but we didn't go anywhere. And then we crossed the locks, and that was interesting. I really liked that. I really enjoyed that. And then we went to Cartagena, Colombia, and then we made it over to Fort Lauderdale, and we flew home from Fort Lauderdale. So yeah, that is my list of my favorite cruises of all the 11 that we've taken so far. So the top 2 were on Ruby. And Ruby Princess, I liked it. It was fun. Once you're on a Crown or a Ruby, they're the same thing. So, but yeah, those are my favorite cruises out of all the 11 I've been on. I would love to go on more cruises, but I need a job. Does anyone know of a job out there? If so, let me know in the comments down below, okay? All right, guys. So yeah, those are my favorite cruises. And so if you have a favorite cruise, what is your favorite cruise? Leave it down in the comments down below and explain why it's your favorite. All right, because yeah, we all have different tastes. We all have different, like, hey, this is my favorite. This is my favorite. Alaska's my favorite. The Mediterranean's my favorite. Norway is my favorite. We all have different favorites. So why don't you share what your favorite cruise is down below? I would really, really, really appreciate it. All right, guys. Appreciate you guys for sticking around hearing my number 1 favorite cruise, the Panama Canal. All right, guys. So if you guys liked this video, give it a thumbs up. I would really, really appreciate it. And hit that subscribe button because I've got more videos coming out here on Traveling with Justin. And I appreciate you guys. You guys take care. And I will see you later. Bye.